Moving on to other news stories, with just over 2 weeks left for the CPS contract to expire, the Treasury is confident of meeting that 1st of April deadline for grants distribution. Putting the onus on Social Development Minister, Finance Minister Gordhan, told Standing Committee on Public Accounts that the final decision rests with the ConCourt, declaring the CPS contract illegal. Gordhan said he will only support the extension of an invalid contract if the ConCourt directs it, pushing for the banks to be made role players in grants distribution. The ministry said that they cannot be excluded from the bidding process.
All tenders must be advertised so that there can be a competitive process. So the key is emphasis is on competitiveness. In other words, anybody who wants an opportunity to bid to do a particular piece of government work must be allowed to do so, and allowed to indicate what their costs will be so that government can get best value. Except where, of course, you get collusion like we had in the construction industry, which Minister Patel and the PICC have been dealing with in recent times. The contract between SASSA and CPS is declared invalid, as I indicated earlier. The declaration of invalidity is suspended pending the decision whether to award a new tender after the tender process is rerun. So the court has the ability to say, although something is illegal, because of what we described earlier on as the higher duty to ensure that people continue to receive the grants, it can suspend the unlawfulness until a new process is put into place to ensure that there's continuation in payment of grants into the future. The first one, there are two legal opinions obtained by Social Development SASSA in 2016, one in I think about May 2016, the other in October 2016, both of which are reasonably clear that an extension will be unlawful. That's option one, option A. It will be unlawful because the court has declared this tender to be unlawful. And that if you do want to exercise that option, you have to go back to the Constitutional Court and, in a sense, get their consent that everything you've said to them before doesn't apply any longer, and you want option one here and option A of the two options that I indicated to actually apply. The second option, option B, is the alternate option where you initiate a new tender process. So just keep that in mind because we're going to repeatedly come back to that. Option two here is that banks that provide services to the majority of beneficiaries, in this instance Grindrod Bank, be utilized in some way. Now Grindrod Bank apparently has accounts for each of the recipients, and there's a distinction between recipient and beneficiary. The recipient could be a parent who receives a grant for himself or herself, plus 3 children, for example. So there are 10.5 million recipients of grants, but there are 17 million beneficiaries of grants. So that's a distinction that you might want to bear in mind as well. So you could utilize that bank. The option 3, use all the banks who want to comply with SASSA's requirements and use their network to actually distribute grants. I'm fairly confident that grants will be paid on the 1st of April. The question is, what route do we travel between now and then to place ourselves in that position?
The opposition MPs raised several questions over the role of CPS. Even Gordhan hinted that the cashless service providers' conduct has not been ideal.
When Treasury's responsibility is for us to receive service providers who, one, have got the capacity, but in the final analysis must also ensure that those service providers act in the national interest and act on behalf of the people. So I plead on behalf of those people, do not give us CPS. They are a bunch of thieves, crooks, who are hell-bent on milking the system and abusing our people.
A task team of ministers have decided that talks between the South African Social Security Agency and Cash Paymaster Services must be started afresh, and only once National Treasury has agreed to entertain talks with a single bidder. Here are some of the points disagreed between the two departments. Well, meanwhile, SASSA and Social Development have been given until 3 p.m. today to explain why they missed yesterday's ConCourt deadline. Both had to respond to a list of questions posed last week by the ConCourt over the current CPS contract at Saga by 4 p.m. yesterday, but the documents were filed electronically only later in the evening.
We managed to file the replies to the court directions from the Chief Justice, and that was done yesterday. Although we filed electronically quite late, and physical copies will be delivered at court now this morning, but we did manage to file indeed.
Well, let's go over now to my colleague Yoropetsi for the responses filed by SASSA to the Constitutional Court. Kio, it's over to you.
Well, thank you, Abigail. Here are some of the questions that the ConCourt wanted answers to from SASSA. The first one is, who determined that SASSA would not be able to meet the March 2017 deadline? And SASSA said the NDA head, Vuyelwa Nhlapo, advised the CEO of the delay in meeting the deadline. Second question was, when did SASSA become aware that it would not? The response from SASSA is that SASSA became aware that it would not meet the deadline on April 19th of 2016. The third question posed was the minister informed and when that SASSA would not meet the deadline? The minister was informed that SASSA would not meet the deadline as early as October of 2016. The next question posed was, what is the agreement between SASSA and the CPS on the grants payment? SASSA says that the SASSA-CPS agreement is not yet negotiated and not yet concluded. The final question was, is the agreement lawful and in compliance with procurement requirements? Now, the response there is the agreement will be compliant if Treasury approves the deviations. It's back to you.